Hello everybody and welcome back for more Let's Play Banjo-Tooie. In the last episode, we entered Hellfire Peaks, and we started off by beating one half the boss of this whole level. And among other things here too. So, and in this episode, we are inside the Colosseum Kickball Stadium. Kickball, you say? That actually sounds familiar. We've might have done something like that before. I'll say yeah, it's a Minjo, so yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of looks like some kind of alcove. You thought it was a Jinjo, but nope. I mean, it kind of looks more obvious. And oh, hey, you look familiar. Don't burn him. Talk to him. Oh, no, not this again. Ah, yeah, this guy. Yeah, you remember those guys. Yep. We've encountered them back over in Mayhem Temple. And so it's like, you know, what are they doing here in, of all places? Well, actually, if you just remember, so back in Mayhem Temple, we actually did the Mayan Kickball Stadiums. Well, they're actually back here, and they're doing the Colosseum Kickball. So we're actually going to be doing some Kickball again here, folks, just like we did back then. It's been, like, such a long time, so it's kind of like, you know, return to a little Kickball thing. Which, I mean, they kind of reference it again, though, but, I mean, you know, still, I mean, you guys still remember about, like, you know, how King Jingling wants all the Jinjos back to compete in this Kickball Stadium, but honestly, guys, you know, that goes absolutely nowhere whatsoever, because, like, you know, I mean, they mentioned something like that, you know, that's the whole reason behind wanting the Jinjos back to compete with the Jinjos against the moles, and with Bottles participating in that. But guess what, guys, that still goes absolutely nowhere, because, like, they say it just once after King Jingling gives you the mission, and then after that, they never mention it ever again. So it's like, you know, they say it though, but then it just kind of, you know, it just kind of becomes pointless in a sense here. So, but yeah, there's the kickball mini games again, or the kickball stadium. So we're going inside here, and also look at that, folks. We're back in the Mayan Kickball Stadium, back in Mayhem Temple. So yes, it's another one of the things where you know, we can actually just go and connect between the two. I think it's just one of those branches. So you may be wondering, like, exactly how are we going to compete in those? Because, I mean, you know, normally only the Stonies can be able to enter the kickball stadiums, but I mean, it's in Hailfire Peaks, and so what can we do? And why am I going back to Wumba's Wigwam? Well, you know, that's because, you know, normally because the Stony coach or referee or whatever, you know, since they only speak in some kind of their own kind of Stony language, and so we can't really understand them. That means, you know, since we can be able to talk to them as the Stony form, then yeah, we're changing back to the back to Stony Banjo. And yes, yeah, I'm sure, you know, to those of you who have never played this game before, and you're actually just going to watch this video so far, and you're probably thinking like, well, I thought transformations are self-contained, like, you know, they only work in their own kind of worlds. Well, actually, that may not be the case here. This is one of those exceptions, because yeah, so we're going back over to change back to the Stony Banjo again. Because look at that, folks. We're actually allowed to go to an entirely different level with the Stony from a different level. So it's actually really neat. So yeah, we're playing as Stony Banjo here in Hellfire Peaks, despite the fact that's supposed to be a transformation for Mayhem Temple. And so yeah, it's one of those special exceptions here that we have here. Now, keep in mind, the transformation, well, you can only use the transformation only in the Colosseum itself, though, because you actually can't leave the Colosseum as Stony Banjo, so you can't really explore the rest of Hellfire Peaks in that form. So this is actually, it's only limited to this location only for that there. But yeah, so that's actually the whole reasoning behind, you know, being able to transform back to the Stony Banjos. That way there we can actually participate in the Colosseum Kickball. Speaking of which, we're going to go ahead and start it right now. So, so basically it's supposed to be some kind of professional thing, and we're at the quarterfinals right now. Now, from what the Stony coach explained just now, is that the rules are completely different. As a matter of fact, they're exactly the opposite of how those kickball minigames worked back in Mayhem Temple. Because unlike beforehand, unlike Mayhem Temple, where you know they kind of focus more on the offense, this minigame actually focuses more on defense. And so, therefore, the way to win this is that you have to, whoever has the least number of points is the winner. So, so yeah, it's kind of the opposite way you have to go for. So, for this round, we only have the yellow kickballs, which actually only increases the points. So, what we have to do is that, you know, there's actually a couple of strategies you can go for. What I'm actually doing right now is basically just, you know, focusing on getting the yellow kickballs over to the opponent's goalies. What you can also do, though, is that you can actually try to defend your own goalie, so, you know, just playing more on defense. And then just prevent your opponents from getting their yellow balls into them. So you want to make sure to, but you also, at the same time, you also want to make sure to put the yellow balls into the opponent's goalies that were there more of the points, and just make sure that you have the lowest number of points, because that's basically what the whole thing is. You know, just make sure they have the least number of points, so that way they can win. And once again, I'm actually doing the save states right here, though. But, you know, you can actually see that, you know, those gargoyles being absolute jerks, and still shooting those fireballs right at me as I'm trying to get to the next rounds. Yeah, because, you know, because they're dicks. Alright, so next up is the semifinal, and so for this one, so they'll, so what happens is you'll actually start by all the participants will actually get the, will have all 50 points, so now we're just going to have the red balls, which actually decreases the points. So what you want to do is that you want to make sure to take the red ball and put it into your own goalie. The opponents will actually just do it on the other ones, but they'll also do it to you as well. So you see the red balls, make sure you pick up as many as you can before your opponents do, and then just kick it to your goalie, so that way there you'll actually be able to decrease the points more so, and just make sure you have less number of points. So you just pick up as many of those as you can, and just keep bringing it to your goalie, and that's about it. And this one isn't too hard per se, though. I will say though that the quarterfinal is probably a little harder though, because I actually did take a few attempts at the quarterfinals because, you know, because I didn't quite do so well though. And now, last but not least, is the final. And so this one, well, I thought maybe it's not so much difficult. I would say, you know, ironically enough, the quarterfinals have to be the hardest one, even though it's supposed to be the first round. And the final round is supposed to be the most difficult of them all, but I don't know, it kind of feels weird like that. Alright, so, yeah, never see it. Oh, go fuck yourself. I will definitely be a Colosseum Kickball champion. I shall be. Alright, so this one will be a mixture of both the yellow and the red balls. And so, yeah, you always want to make sure to focus more on the red balls, but you also want to make sure that, you know, whenever your opponents actually kick the yellow balls into your goal, then just try to pick up more of the red balls and then just go into the and just kick into your goalie. So it's actually a mixture of both. But there are those bomb balls they can use. If you kick them against your opponents, they actually get stunned, but make sure you don't go near them either. Also, you may have noticed that you can actually see some of the balls are actually flashing. I think, and if I remember correctly, or correct me if I'm wrong, actually, but the balls that flash actually give you a higher number of points than the regular ones do, the ones that don't flash. So, so it's actually ideal to actually pick up the flashing ones, so that way there you actually have an easier chance of ensuring victory. Speaking of victory, we did it, guys. That was the final, and so now with all those, then we'll be able to get our jiggy. So now we are the Colosseum Kickball champion. And that should be it for all those kickball mini games we have here. So so yeah, there's our jiggy right here. So yeah, it's a nice little callback, you know, since all the way back in Mayhem Temple was actually the first level of the game, you know, just doing these kickball matches, and so they actually brought it over here into Hellfire Peaks. So, all right, so we're pretty much done with well, those mini games here, and now we're done with Stony Banjo once and for all. So yeah, it's actually pretty neat just being able to use the a different world's transformation into another world. So you know, actually it does feel a lot more connected, and you know that's why they have the area that leads over to the Mayan Kickball Stadium. So, so yeah, it's definitely it is you know, it's not something you see every day though. Just you know, going for a different transformation. But you know, like I said, you're only limited to being in the Colosseum itself at Stony Banjo, because you know you can't really go anywhere. So, but you know, it's pretty neat at the same time though. You know, it's definitely the first time that's ever happened though, and I remember all the other worlds, you know, having that kind of a very same honor, let alone even in well, I want to say, well, I was gonna say, like, you know, somewhere in Banjo-Kazooie though, but you know, there was that instance with Pumpkin Banjo where, you know, where it was a transformation in Mad Monster Mansion, but then we also transformed to that in one of those shacks in Gruntilda's lair itself. Ergo the overworld. So, but I don't know, maybe that might not be the case. So, oh yes, I also do want to mention here though. So, after stepping on the switch, there's those platforms they'll raise, and so just use the Wonder Wings to get into the that scalding hot waterfall to get that get that Jinjo. In my case, that being a black Jinjo. I also want to say though, and I actually still remember this to this day, and you know, and I just want to get this out of the way here, folks. So, if you're playing Banjo-Tooie on the N64 console itself, let me just say that Hellfire Peaks is absolutely notorious for the lag, and I mean, holy fucking shit. Yeah, there's like so much lag. Like, the Hellfire Peaks chugs, because like, you know, and I want to bring this up here. So like, you know, whenever you go through that hot waterfall to get that Jinjo, the game itself will actually really chill. Like, it effectively turns to a to PowerPoint presentation, which I want to say here. And so, like, you know, like, the N64 itself is really trying its damnedest to actually just, you know, try to run the game. Because, like, you know, I think it's because of rush development here or something like that, but I think they've really managed to push the limits of the N64 for this game here. And you probably, it actually does go to show, because, like, there's so much detail, and, you know, and I will say that, you know, that Banjo-Tooie definitely is one of the best looking N64 games, you know, with all the details. And I also want to say, like, you know, with, like, to talk about the model of Chili Billy, it just looks so realistic as well. The same thing with the dinosaurs and Pterodactyl Land, where, you know, they're drawn realistically, even though this is supposed to be a cartoon world, because they're, because basically, like, you know, the Banjo-Kazooie series is supposed to be cartoony. But they kind of, like, you know, drawn realistically for, like, you know, some certain aspects like dinosaurs and all that, and also in the case of Chili Billy. And, you know, just looking at Chili Billy, and, you know, later on his brother that we'll be getting to, you know, they clearly look like they've been ripped straight out of a GameCube title, because, you know, because they managed to just fit right into the N64, and it seems to be, like, you know, with a lot more polygons than how it is usually. And so because of that, you know, they really managed to push the limits of the N64 and just to see what it's capable of. But because of that, then they kind of, like, you know, was barely able to run, though. And so because of that, Hellfire Peaks definitely is very choppy, and it chugs so much, and, you know, and it actually goes worse if you actually just go through that hot waterfall and get that Jinjo. It really does look like a PowerPoint presentation. And so, you know, the N64 just, you know, tries so hard to actually just try to, you know, run the whole game, and, you know, it's very hard for it to do because, you know, because of how choppy it gets and all that. And so, you know, that's actually, and I know, I agree, that's definitely the one, you know, kind of issue I would have with Banjo-Tooie, despite the fact that, you know, I love this game to death. It is, you know, still my favorite game of all time. But, you know, that's definitely, you know, the one issue about it. You know, if you're playing this on original hardware, and you just see the frame rate issues so much, though. So, like, you know, yeah, Hellfire Peaks definitely is, you know, it's very well known for, oh yeah, and I was fouled there, but yay for no fall damage! Awesome! And yeah, for what this mission entails, that, you know, you basically have to do 2 assignment switches just by using the split pads, and, you know, you just basically go, like, back and forth between playing as Banjo and then Kazooie. And, okay, well, I don't know how I got that fall damage there, but, you know, but you go to different arches with the different switches with the respective characters, and so, you know, step on each of the switches to open the gates, and then, if you keep repeating this process, then that's how you get the Jiggy, so that's actually what it is. But, anyway, going back a bit there, but yeah, I think some people actually even nickname it Lagfire Peaks because of how laggy it is. But thankfully, though, because I'm actually playing this on the NSO, and the frame rate, you know, the frame rate issues are gone. Like, you know, it doesn't really, it's not really as chuggy, and so therefore there's little to no lag at all. So that's actually one of the things that I'm actually really glad, and, you know, best recommend to play this on the NSO because there's, like, no frame rate issues whatsoever. And so, so, like, you know, I'll be able to just play it just fine without any issues, and, you know, the game actually does feel so much better that way, with the without any of the frame rate issues, without any of the lag, though. So I'm actually pretty glad I'm playing this on the NSO instead, because, you know, it does feel so much better like that. I know the Xbox Live Arcade port was definitely the first one to get rid of the frame rate issue, where it actually runs at 60 frames per second, which is actually nice and all that, except for when the opening cutscene is so horribly out of sync, which I actually did talk about previously. But yeah, but other than that, though, I mean, it still definitely runs a lot better with that 60 FPS on the Xbox ports. But you know, the same is also true if you're playing this on the NSO. Like, you know, it's not really at the level of it 60 FPS though. Like, it's a little less than that though, but there's not as much lag as there usually would be though. So, you know, the frame rate isn't as bad here. So that's why it's always best recommended to just play the NSO in that aspect. Also, I kind of went the wrong way, though. I meant to go over to the other side, though, but I kind of went in there instead. But this is actually a little shortcut like, you use that as a shortcut to get from the bottom to the top just by go through the doors in the Colosseum. So, oh, what else was I gonna say? I know I was talking about the lag and all that, and, you know, how much of the, you know, how much they actually push limits to the N64. But, you know, I guess that's what it is, though. And you see how much detail it is, you know, that being one of the best looking N64 games. Because I know, you know, Rare definitely went above and beyond for this one here. And so, you know, they really did push limits here. And this also comes from the fact that, you know, even though the game clearly does look like that require the expansion pack, but no, this is one of those games that doesn't require the expansion pack at all. play this game, and so it just it has those kind of graphics. Like, you know, it's just amazing like that. Because like I said, these are the kind of graphics you would see in Majora's Mask, and that game required the expansion pack. I know I said this again though, but I also want to emphasize. But you know, honestly though, going back to the back to how chuggy it is, you know, also reminds me of at one point in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, there's an area called Tag Tree Thicket. A lot of people actually nickname this Lag Tree Thicket because holy shit, that area chugs so much. And I know it's because of the performance issues of Scarlet and Violet with how laggy it tends to be, but especially if you go like, you know, deep in the woods around in at one point in Paldea, where you know the game just lags so much, and you know, but I think because of the performance issues and all that, and you know with how open it is though, so you know, I think this might only apply if you're playing this on the original Switch 1 version. I don't know if they ever fixed that issue when they for the updated Nintendo Switch 2 edition. Well, not so much the edition though, but they kind of like, you know, updated some stuff for the Switch 2. Because I did hear that they kind of like reduced the frame rate issues for that game though, but I'm not sure if they ever fixed it for the for that area in particular. So okay, you know, and like I said, I still don't have a Nintendo Switch 2 just yet though, but you know, so at the time I honestly do not know what at all if the issue has already been fixed though, so I can't really say for sure. But I know that was really, you know, definitely what it was, and if you're playing this on the original Switch 1, so yeah, that definitely is really what it reminds me of. But yeah, I guess that's all there is though. So I guess that's pretty much all there is that I gotta say about everything here. So. Yeah, we're just about to reach towards the end of the video, though, so that's pretty much all there is that we can do for the fireside. So therefore, we're going to be just about getting ready to go over to the icy side up next, and so we'll go in to see what we have over there. And also, what we'll do first, obviously, just, you know, be the brother of Chili Billy, so... Anyway, so that should be it for this video now. So next time on Let's Play Banjo-Tooie, we're going to enter the icy side of Hailfire Peaks, and of course, we're going to be, you know, deal with Chili Billy's brother, and you know, just fight him as well, and then we'll just you know, do other things there. So with that said, I will see you guys next time.